Well, hello, Lionhearts. How are you guys today? Like I said yesterday, this is going to be a different vlog than what I normally do. And it's not because I'm being lazy. This is actually something that somebody had requested for me to do a week ago, and a couple of things have happened in the last 2 days that kind of put a lot in my mind, and I just wanted to kind of explain it. I think it gives some insight into me, and maybe it'll be a little bit helpful to some of the people that watch my shows, my videos. So somebody had actually asked me if I could talk about how I became a vlogger, or what inspired me to vlog. And I've kind of put off wanting to do that because I didn't really know how to talk about it. I didn't really know how to approach that without it just being boring and uninteresting. But basically what happened is that right around this time last year, I was just feeling really sad about my life. I wasn't feeling like I was making any progress, and I just started looking at different scenarios that involve me leaving Los Angeles. And one of them was that my old friend and drummer, Neil Jones, has offered for years for me to come down and visit and stay where he lives in Mexico. It's a big surfing community down in like the southernmost tip, and said I could come anytime I want and stay as long as I want. And I was seriously considering doing that. And I had mentioned it on my Facebook page, and I got an email from a girl who I totally adored when I was in elementary school. When I started in first grade, I saw this girl. She was in my class, and I developed a crush on her the first day of school, and I pretty much had a crush on her until I transferred to a different school district, leaving third grade going into fourth grade. And she sent me an email just saying, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know, I thought you might get a kick out of this. I had a dream about us last night, that we were back in elementary school and that we were at a roller rink in neon clothes like it was in the late 80s and early 90s, and we were trying to get somebody to take our picture for Facebook, which was odd because Facebook didn't even exist then." And she said, "I just want to tell you that I saw your post the other day about you're thinking about leaving Los Angeles, and I just want to tell you that as somebody who feels like I've lived a lot through happenstance, just because I never had a dream or zeroed in on a dream and followed it, I watch what you do on your Facebook page, and I just want to tell you that I'm really proud of you, and I don't want you to give up. I think if your dream's still alive, I think you should keep chasing it." And at that time, I had already, I'd kind of thought about, like I said, pretty much planned on leaving. And but at the time, Neil had said, "Look, you can come here, you can stay. I have no problem with that. I'd love to have you, but I think you're a talented guy, and I think you should consider doing something before you give up. Like, you should come down here and visit, but I think you should think about doing your own thing." He said, "I think you, as long as I've known you, you've been so fascinating to listen to talk about anything that you're interested in." He said, "I think maybe you should try and interview bands or interview musicians or interview people and see what happens." And a friend of mine at the time was also, he's a successful guy in YouTube, and he just kept telling me, like, "Hey, you know, you're really fascinating to listen to talk. Like, when we drive places, I can listen to you talk all day." He goes, "You should think about doing a podcast. I really think that you would do well with a podcast." And then I talked to Michael, and I just said, "Hey, you know, I think I'm going to leave." And he said, "I don't want you to leave. I don't think you should leave." He said, I support you going and visiting Neil, but I don't think that you should give up on your dream, because out of all the people that I've known out here and all the facets of businesses that I've been in," he said, "you're the most talented one, and I still have faith that you're going to find your way." And so I just thought about all that stuff, and at the time I didn't really know what to do. And so this girl and I, we'll just call her Allison. Allison and I started emailing each other every day. Big long emails, just catching up. We had basically we'd known each other from 1st through 3rd grade, and then when I moved, we didn't see each other for a long time, and then we got put in a lot of the same classes in 8th grade, and we became good friends again in 8th grade, and then I think she moved away, and we lost touch again, and then had found each other through Facebook all these years later. You know, at this point, now we've probably known each other for 30 years, and she started filling me in on her life, and she started telling me that she had been married, or that she recently had been getting a divorce, and that her husband had been a drug addict, and that it was extremely tough for her because she had been a drug addict counselor, and that she was living one life at work while having to live another life at home, and trying to not accept what was going on in her house. And she said when she had her children, she ended up having a couple of kids. She said she fell into like a postpartum depression, and her husband would just basically tell her that he didn't love her and tell her he didn't care. And when she got very depressed and almost suicidal, he said he didn't care what happened to her. And she realized that if she didn't pull herself out of it, that her kids would have no chance because they would be stuck with somebody like that raising them. And so it really caused her to pull her life together, to get a divorce, get away from that person, and get the strength to go on and be like a single mother, and feeling like she could still, like she could do it. And I know how hard that is, coming from somebody like me who I've been in relationships as well, where I've been with a person that decides they don't want you to do anything if they're not going to be successful at it, and they crush down your dreams and make you feel like you're not good enough to do them. And so I knew exactly where she was coming from, and I think at that point in my life, that's kind of what I was living through, as I was feeling like that person, that the town had broken me. I had nothing else that I really felt that I could give, and I didn't know what else to do. I had taken a class, and the person who taught the class just said, "You're really likable. I liked you as soon as you started. There's something about you that's likable. And I think you have a lot of stories to tell. I think you should consider telling those stories to the world in some way." And so I started thinking, and I said, you know what, I'm going to start doing stand-up comedy. I'd always hung out at the Comedy Store for years. And I love to watch it, but I never had the passion to do it, and never saw myself doing it, partially because I don't like repetition. I didn't like the idea of writing a joke and then having to practice it for a year to make it successful, or going to open mics. I would go to an open mic, and like 3/4 of the time you'd sign up and your name didn't get drawn, and you didn't get to go up, or you would go up and everybody in the room's a comic that's waiting their turn to go up, so they're all rehearsing their act in their head, and you're not getting any kind of response or feedback, and it makes you feel like that your comedy's not good. So I asked a friend of mine who is a pretty successful comedian at the time, and I know he lived in my neighborhood, Ian Edwards, if I could have coffee with him and I could just talk to him. So he made time, and we sat down and we talked, and basically I just wanted to pick his brain about how to really get started in comedy, and we talked for about an hour, and at the end of it he said, "Look, Jordan, you know what you have to do. You just have to go out and you have to do it." He's like, "One of two things is going to happen. You're going to love it, and you're going to have a lot of fun, or you're not going to like it, and you'll know that you gave it a try and you just won't want to do it. But the worst case scenario is you just find out that you don't like doing it. But it's a lot of fun, and you can definitely have a lot of fun." And I said, "Do you think I should like put myself on a schedule, like do it, you know, the same mics every week? Do you think I should?" He said, "Hit everything. Go everywhere you can, do everything you can, see everything you can, learn from everybody that you can, and do it as often as you can." I said, "Do you think I should do it every day?" And he goes, "I mean, I don't know what your financial situation is, but if you can afford to get out and do it every day, I mean, the more you put into it, the better you're going to get, the faster, and the more experience you're going to get." And so I went out and I started signing up for open mics and trying to get on open mics, and most of the time my name wouldn't get drawn, and if it did, just like I told you, you know, you wouldn't get much of a reaction because everybody's looking down in their notebook in their hand, rehearsing their act and what they're going to do. And I just didn't feel that writing comedy in that way was for me. And I had been in a band for years with Michael and Neil and John Wan, who you guys have met. And when that was coming to a close, it really ended because I lost the passion for performing live. I didn't need the immediate gratification of seeing people in front of me to get the gratification that I was looking for out of it. And so that kind of translated into doing stand-up. I just didn't really care for performing in front of people. And so I was realizing pretty shortly, within a couple of months, that just wasn't for me. And like I said, my friend kept influencing me and telling me, hey, I don't think stand-up comedy is your thing. I keep telling you, I think you should do a podcast. I really think you should do a once-a-week podcast. But for me, I see there's so many podcasts, and I also thought, how am I going to get a guest that often? Two, as far as me liking podcasts, the ones I like the most are people that don't have guests, and the people that are good at doing it on their own, like Bill Burr and Jerry Rocha and Sam Tripoli and Dean Del Rey and all these people that were just doing a show on their own. And we actually had a little bit of a dinner argument about it, and I was just like, I don't think a podcast is right for me, and I don't think that I would build it up anywhere in the amount of time that I would get anything out of it. And those days, I just happened to one day be surfing YouTube, and I ran across a guy named Adam the Woo, who was making daily videos about whatever it was that he was doing in his life, and kind of sparked something in me, because I thought, I can do all this on my own. If I do it every day, even if I'm not accomplishing something, I'll feel like I'm accomplishing something. And being a single person who never had kids, who always wanted them and always wanted at least to leave something behind, I thought at the very least, maybe if I do it every day, at some point I'll get good enough to where there will be something worth watching. Maybe it'll take a year before they're any good, and I just started doing it. And that's basically how I started. Now, the reason that I'm telling you this story today is because one of the odd things that has kind of poked into my head was that girl, Allison, we've known each other all these years, and we may go 5 years without talking, just because, you know, a new social media platform arises and you don't find each other in years or whatever, and like, I'm not a big phone person, and so every once in a while we catch up, and she sent me a message 2 days ago, and one of the things is that when I was in first grade, I wrote her a love letter, and I slid it in her desk, and I just told her like I wanted to go out with her. Even then, like, you didn't go anywhere, but like, you just, you know, you wanted like a girlfriend or whatever. And it wasn't as big of a deal when you were like in first, and then, but when you were in third grade, that was when like a lot of people were like boyfriend and girlfriends, because then if you went to like a football game, you had somebody's hand to hold. And I had written her a letter when we were like in first grade, and she said no, and I think I just held that and never asked her out again, like never tried again. But I always made sure I was around her, but I always thought she didn't like me because she had said no. And so 2 days ago she sent me an email, and she said, my sister was in her storage and she pulled out some of my things, and I wanted you to see what she showed me. And she said that she gave me my diaries from when I was in elementary school, and she had taken photos of her diary pages from 1989, and her diary pages were about me and how much she liked me and how she didn't know why she wasn't going out with me, even though everybody thinks that we are, and her sister keeps saying, you know, you like him. And she said she just thought it would make my day, or she thought it was funny that that all these years later that she found those diaries. And it started making me think right away. I was like, you know, she's somebody that throughout all these years, you know, from school to school, you always lose contact with people that are really close to you in your lives, and sometimes you may never ever find them again, or because of social media now maybe you will, but you never have the closeness that you had when you knew them at that one time, or at least I generally don't. And she's somebody who every time we reconnect, we always like we always have that same like kinship that we always did. Like we always just get along really well and everything. And it just started making me think, like, what if life would have been a little bit different? Like, what if she was meant to be my Wonder Years Winnie Cooper, and like if only we would have both known then, or would have, you know, would have just said something then, it may have somehow went on throughout the years. Because one of the funny stories is you guys have met my friend John Wan, his band I've shown quite a few times on here. His girlfriend, well, his wife now, they actually met when they were in elementary school. And they went out at the end of elementary school into junior high, and then her family bought a surf shop in Hawaii and moved to Hawaii, and they broke up. And he ended up going to UCLA, and one day on campus he's walking along the grass and he walks right past her. And they rekindled their relationship. They've been together ever since. And whenever we go on a camping trip, John and I, whenever we go out to Shy Deck or whatever, he always, right before we lose reception out there, he always calls her. And they always sound like a couple who is still madly, childishly in love. Like, oh, hi. Like, it's pretty entertaining to watch. And one of the things that he says is, he's like, from the moment I met her, even to this day, whenever I worry about anything, she always says there's nothing to worry about. It'll work out. And he goes, 99% of the time, she's always right. And that's why I think our relationship works, because when I worry about something, she lets me know there's nothing to worry about. And when she worries about something, I let her know there's nothing to worry about. And last night, I was watching the end of the Grateful Dead documentary that I keep telling you guys about. And I think it was the very last episode. And they interviewed Jerry Garcia's wife, or his ex-wife. And one of the things that she says is, she says, we were high school sweethearts, and we went out when we were in high school, and then right after we graduated, and we never broke up. He started doing music, and that became his life, and we just drifted apart. We never broke up. We never said goodbye. We never fought. We just fizzled away from each other. And then she said 30 years later, he sends me a letter in the mail, and just saying like, hey, you know, how are you, da-da-da. It's funny that she was a journalist at the time, and at the end of his letter he says, I always love you. And she said, I didn't know what that meant. And then shortly after that, I get a call saying that he's requested to have me interview him. And so I went for this interview, and she said it was very uncomfortable, because he starts telling me how he's thought, how he says, you know, have you ever thought that maybe for the last 30 years, like, have you ever felt like we've been living in a parallel world where I wasn't in the Grateful Dead and you weren't a journalist, and that we were actually living out a life together? And like, he tells her this whole story, and she said, I was really off-put by it, because then at the end of the interview, he asked me to go to Hawaii with him, and she said, I go to Hawaii with him, and just everything that I loved about him when I was in high school, and that it was all back, and they got remarried again. And it was just funny, because I was thinking, like, how funny sometimes life decisions happen for a reason, and though you may not have any idea why they happen, if they're meant to fall back in line and you just follow the paths that are open for you, I feel like in a weird way that just happens. And so now it like warms my heart every day that like once a day somebody says like, thank you for your channel, or like, you're my favorite YouTuber, just says something really nice, because every day I try and put in what I feel like is the best vlog. Like, I try and go find something that other people haven't seen or won't tell you about in the same way that I'll tell you, and I try and keep it alive, and I try and keep everything that I see alive. And part of why I told you this story was that when she sent me that message like a year ago, she really made me realize that I was in a position, like, I lived in a place where anything was possible. And every day when I go and vlog something, it's something about someone that has made something happen that was possible. And I thought, I gotta quit making reasons why I can't be successful. I just have to start working on it. I had a friend who, this guy was crazy. His name was Chris. Chris always had a get-rich-quick scheme in his mind. He was always looking for, what could he get somebody to invest in that would make him money? What could he Where could he move that he could make money quick? Where could I mean, he would every time he would come to hang out here, he would tell me, "Oh man, I'm thinking of moving to Atlanta." Next time was, "I'm thinking of moving to Chicago." And every time I go, "Why?" And he go, "Oh man, there's all kinds of opportunity." I said, "Chris, you live in Los Angeles. There's more opportunity here than anywhere, and you already are here." So I had to take my own advice. That's how my channel started. I guess what I didn't really want to say in this is something that I have to say, which is I just realized at some point in my life that all the things that I thought I would have when I was a kid, I don't have. And if I'm not going to have those things, the very least that I can do in life is leave something that will benefit everyone else. If I'm not going to leave a family, or I'm not going to leave an acting legacy or a musical legacy that anybody cares about, well, shoot, maybe I can leave a legacy of Los Angeles that everyone will find entertaining someday. So that's why I vlog. And I hope that this was worth your time to watch. Jordan the Lion in Hollywood, California. Tomorrow there will be another adventure. Good night.